In terms of what we're going to cover today, I'm going to give you an overview of what ePay is, what it's designed to do. I'm going to walk you through how to register or set up your account on the system, and then I'm going to go through how to reset a forgotten password, do a bit of password management. We're going to navigate around the home page to explain what the different buttons and links mean. Then we're going to look at salary claim entry, both as a permanent member of staff and also if you have a bank post. We're then going to look at running a report, because you'll be able to run a report on your claims. Then we're going to talk about your processes, how those might change as a result of using the ePay system. And we're also going to explain the live webinar dates that are booked at the time of recording. And then at the end, we're going to allow all of the people who are claimants to leave, and then those of you who are approvers will stay on for some additional training on how to approve claims at the end. So ePay is an online web-based portal available over the N3 network in the office, all the World Wide Web from home, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on any computer. You can also use tablets and mobile devices. It is modular, so there are modules for travel and expense claims, salary claims, which is what you yourselves are going to be using. There's also an HR forms module, so things like new starters, leavers and changes, and also absence, so sickness and annual leave, for example. There is information that comes over from the ESR system that you're all paid through, and when you get your payslip, that is generated by the ESR system, and ePay and ESR talk to each other via an interface. So your data about you, such as your name and date of birth, and your organisation information such as your job, who your manager is, perhaps what your work email address is to send you emails about your claims. All of that information gets sent from ESR to ePay via an interface. And any changes that happen to the record also come in as an update into ePay the following day. So for example, if your home address was changed in ESR today, effective immediately, then it would come into ePay on the interface the following morning. There's also an extract that happens from ePay after your approval deadline is passed each month, which we're going to come on to later. And we run an extract to pull out all the approved claims from ePay, and we load those into ESR to be paid to you in the normal way. This slide is talking about the approval process. I'm going to navigate around this using my pointer on the mouse. So basically what will happen is it will start with the claimant over here on the right hand side. When they submit their claim for approval, it automatically emails their approver on a 1 email per claim basis. And then if they don't approve that claim within a certain period, then an escalation process kicks in, which is what the bullet points at the bottom of the slide are referring to. So 4 working days after the claim's been submitted, if it still isn't approved, then this approver will get a reminder email, and then if they don't approve it for another 2 working days, so that's 6 in total, at that point it will escalate away from them up to their approver, so it's moving up a level, and we've called that person the second approver here. It stays with the second approver for 2 working days, and if they still don't approve it, then it will escalate up to the ePay administrator here, and they have the facility to reassign escalated claims back to the original approver or to somebody else if there's been a genuine problem there. Also, if the claim does get reassigned, then it goes back through a second cycle, with each stage happening after 1 day because it's becoming more urgent. And then finally, the second approver, if they wish to, can send the claim straight back to the original approver when it gets to them, if they wish to use that functionality. Just to explain a bit about the ePay administrators, they're a small group of users who administer the system on a day-to-day basis. On your homepage in ePay, when you're logged in on the bottom left, there'll be an email address for you to contact them with any queries you might have. They'll administer the system day to day, as I say, doing things like reassigning escalated claims. They can also set up substitutes. So this is to do with substitute approvers. If you are an approver, you can have up to 3 substitutes set for you by the administrator on request, and those will normally be other approvers who can go in and approve claims if you're going to be absent on your behalf. So if you're an approver and you know you're going to be going on leave, you can inform your substitutes and ask them to approve your team's claims while you're away. Substitutes won't get emails about those claims because they'll only get them for their own teams, but they can use that functionality when the original approver asks them to do so. In terms of registration, you'll be sent a link to the ePay system when the organisation wants you to register, and the login page looks like this. And the first thing you will do is click the link at the bottom where it says if you don't have an account, click here to register. You'll then go through a registration process. You're prompted to enter in personal information, which will be verified against what's held in ESR. So use your payslip for this. Most of what you need is on there, including your organisation number, which for yourselves is 262, but you can look it up using the lookup icon there. And you then key in your employee number, which is the 8-digit number on your payslip. That's also your username in ePay, so your username is your employee number. Key in your first name as it appears on your payslip, and your last name, your date of birth, your NI number, and your home postcode. So everything on will be on your payslip apart from the home postcode. Then you've got one of these capture images. If you can't clearly read what's on it, then click on it to refresh it until you can, and type what you see into the box below without any spaces and click Next. It will check what you've entered against what's held in ESR, and if anything's wrong, it will tell you. It will just say registration has failed because it's trying to protect your personal details. On the third attempt, if it's still wrong, then it will block the account for an hour, but it will display an email address for you to contact because it might be that your information in ESR is out of date. And as I said earlier, if that got updated today in ESR, it would come into ePay as an update tomorrow, and you would then be able to register with the right information. If, however, after the account being blocked for an hour had elapsed, if you got it wrong a further 3 times, so 6 in total, it locks it completely, but then it will automatically email the ePay administrator who can liaise with you, do some security checks and unlock the account. But let's imagine we got everything right. Click the Next button and you'll then be asked to set up your password and confirm it. There'll be some guidelines at the top as shown here. It will show an email address that it will use to send you emails about your claims, and you can then set up 5 different security questions and answers from a list of 20. And you can see here I've done one-word answers in my example because the security answers are used in the forgotten password routine and they are space and character sensitive. So if you use one-word answers, you increase the chances of getting it correct. It will also show the details of your main job at the bottom and the name of the approver the request is going to be sent to. You click Submit Request, tick the terms of use and click OK. You'll then be told who the registration has been sent to for approval. So it's important to note that has to be approved by that approver before you can start using ePay. You'll know when that's happened because you'll get an email like this one that tells you the registration's been authorized, and then it shows your employee number in the body there. There's also some text that says your username is your employee number as detailed above. There's also a login to ePay link on the right hand side just for your own use. Moving on to the forgotten password routine, you can use this at any time once you're a live user. If you forget your password, click the second link. You'll then be asked to put in personal details in exactly the same way as you did in registration, so you get 6 chances in total to get it correct. You'll then be asked to answer 2 of your randomly selected security questions. Remember, the answers are space and character sensitive. You click Next after entering each answer, and if you get those right, you'll be able to enter and confirm a new password, and you'll then be able to log in. Now if you're following this routine and you forget a security answer, then click the Forgot Your Answer link, because what that will do is take you into this screen where you can press the highlighted button to request a reset PIN. That will tell you the email address the PIN number has been sent to and the fact that it's valid for an hour. And you can then, you'll get an email automatically, a bit like this example here. The PIN number will be quoted in bold as highlighted, and the expiry time of the PIN will also be shown in red. I would recommend copying the PIN number from the email, pasting it into the box there and clicking OK. And then if it's still valid, you'll be able to set up new security questions to set up the old ones, to replace the old ones, and then you'll be able to change and confirm your password and then log in. So we're going to move on to a bit of system navigation now. I've got an ePay homepage here, and my username, as I mentioned earlier, is my employee number from my payslip. So my registration's been approved. And one thing else to note is if you get your password wrong, you'll see a message like this that says invalid login. And if you get it wrong 3 times, it will block the account for an hour. But it is different to registration of forgotten password in the sense that after the hours elapsed, you can have another 3 goes. And if you keep getting stuck, then just follow the forgotten password routine. So I'm logging in as a user here, so this person isn't an approver, and I'm getting a message saying I've had a failed login attempt. You've all seen me do that, so you know it's telling you if somebody's been trying to access your account if it wasn't you. In terms of the home page here, if we navigate around, I'm going to begin with the profile name on the top left if you follow the pointer. So I'm an ePay user. If you're an approver, it will say ePay manager. And then we also, on the top right, just below the NHS logo, have some links. The home link is like your back button, so please don't use the back button on the browser. Just use the home link when you've finished working in a screen. It's a bit like internet banking in that way. We have an interactive e-learning module that's always available, so people can use this. There are different modules in here on how to use the different types of ePay modules we have available. So there'll be some in here about salary claim entry or approval. And the difference with this is it will stop at certain points. It plays like a video, so you choose your module, you have a bit of you watch it play out. It's going to say click here, do this, do that, and then it will say now you have a go, and you'll be able to have a practice within the e-learning module at any time. Also, we have a help link on each screen. I'm going to show you the salary claims module help file a bit later on. I've also got an accessibility icon there, accessibility link, which will allow you to change the font size, which I've done in my example to make it easier to read, or you can change the contrast to black and yellow, again if you find that easier to read. There's a link to the SBS website, and on the very top right there's a logout link to log out. And if I click the home link, that takes me back out of the screen I was working in, as I mentioned. Working down the page, we've got system messages for downtime will be displayed there if there is going to be any downtime at all. We've then got the employee profile, so this is information about you. My name's Richard, that's my email address, then it shows my home address, details of where my main job is based, so I'm at the Parkway Centre, and it also tells me who my approver is going to be, and then below that it tells me my ePay administrator's email address. This one is fictitious in our training environment, but yours will be specific to your organisation. We've got a login, failed login attempt there since my last login, and it also shows my last successful login. The My Salary Claims module will show your most recent claims, and it also shows the approval deadline. So this one is fictitious, but yours will be specific to your organisation, and this rolls over each month, so it's a handy reminder. I've got a previous cancelled claim here from an earlier webinar, but normally you will see your most recently entered claims here. So at the top of the list, when you've started using the system, your most recent claim will always show. Each claim has a unique 10-digit reference number, so you can use that for raising queries with the ePay administrator. The date entered is the date you last updated the claim, not the date you're claiming for. And then in terms of the status, as I say, this one's cancelled, but if you started a claim and saved it as a work in progress, then it would show with the status of entered, because you can do that, of course. Then when you submit it at the end of the month, it will change to submitted, then approved, and then when we pull it out to pay it to you, it will say extracted for payment. There'll also be a view link against each claim for you to go in and view it, and you'll also have a view all claims button, because that will take you into a screen that will show you all of your claims, not just the 10 most recent, and then a start new claim button. The salary claims link takes you into the same screen as the view all claims button, so we're going to look at that later. And then there's a reports folder for running reports. So I'm going to move on from there to the stage where we're going to create a new salary claim. So I'm going to click Start New Claim. And in the claim header, most of you won't need to change anything, but I will just show you one of the key things is if you have multiple assignments or jobs, you can choose the job you want to claim against by selecting in the drop down here. It will default to your main job, but for example, if you have a bank job, then you can select that. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. For permanent posts, everything else will default in, including the approver there. And then we've got the month you're claiming for. And the way this works is the pay date here is always the month after the period worked, because these are done a month in arrears. So if I wanted to claim for a previous earlier month, I could just change it to May payday, for example, to claim for April. Just to show you how to start a bank claim very quickly. That works slightly differently in that you have a lookup available, because bank people will go where the demand is. So you click the lookup, search for the department where you did the work. As I say, you probably will move around. It does give you suggestions based on what you type in the search. And when you've chosen the department, it will give you a list of the approvers working in that department. And if you worked for Caroline, then you could choose Caroline and then send her that claim for approval. So bank people can choose the department they worked in and then choose the approver they worked for. I'm going to switch this back to the permanent job, and I'm going to do a claim for April, so I'm going to choose the payday of May. When I click next now, it's going to take me into the claim where I can actually start to do my entries. And in this first tab, this is what most of you I think will use, because this is where you will enter enhancements, excess hours and overtime. So the way it works is you have a grid running down the page. You've got weekends in grey and bank holidays in dark grey, as shown there, because we've got the Easter dates in there. And then you've got an edit button on the right hand side for each day for changing entries once you've done them. And then the drop down arrow will also allow you to delete an entry for a particular date if you wish to do that. And we've got on the top right here a button with a green plus on it called maintain. And this is one of the ways that we can start doing our entries. So if I click the maintain button, it brings up the entry window like so. So I'm going to start by clicking on the date I want to claim for. So let's go for Monday the 3rd of April, and let's begin with some night enhancements as an example. So hours in ePay are entered in decimals like so 7.5 hours night enhancements would be entered like that. And then if you want to save the entry, you can use the save and next day button or save and close button if you wish. Save and next day moves you on to the next day, keeps your entry window open. Save and close will save it and close the entry window. What I'm going to do is just show you a nice little feature that will automatically save the entry when I change the date. So if I change it to the Thursday, it pops up this message here that says entry saved, and it automatically saves the entry. Now because I'm part-time, it's allowing me to put in excess hours. So part-time people and bank staff will be able to put in excess hours, which is the hours paid at plain time. So if you're part-time, then your hours up to full-time for the week should be entered as excess hours. I'm on a 30-hour a week contract. I'm going to show you how I know that. Obviously, you will know your own contract. And then for part-time people, anything above full-time hours could be claimed as overtime. If you're bank, all the hours should go in as excess hours. But I'm going to put in 7.5 part-time or excess hours. And then this time, I'm going to show you the save and next day button. So you can see that it does a very similar thing where it saves the entry, but it just moves you on one day to the Friday. And then I'm going to put in some overtime. As I mentioned, I'm part-time and I'm on a 30-hour a week contract, and in the same week I've done 7.5 excess hours, which brings me up to 37.5. So any agreed hours I work above that could be entered as overtime, but of course this will be agreed with your manager. You can see I'm still on a weekday, so I've got weekday overtime available, and you can probably see that the weekend and bank holiday options are read-only at the moment, but those will become available for entry when you're on a weekend or a bank holiday as applicable. If I click Save and Close, that will save my entries, and it also shows them in the summary grid, so you can see the entries on the different days in the different categories. And there's also a total line at the top. There's also the edit button, as I mentioned. You can go in and edit the entries for a particular date. And I'll just show you there is a delete option to delete the whole line if that is what you want to do. I'm going to go to the On-Call Standby Work Done tab now. So not as many of you will use this, but I'm going to show you it as an example. This time I'm going to use the edit button. This is for people who don't automatically get an on-call allowance in their pay. They claim it on an ad hoc basis on a timesheet, and those people would use ePay. We've got one example here. So this is when you're sat at home on call. ePay has on-call entered in hours, and on a weekday for this example on-call, it's entered in 12 units of 12 hours. So you put the hours in and then you choose the allowance. And because I'm on a weekday, it's showing me the weekday allowance, but you can see there'll also be ones for bank holidays and weekends. For bank holidays and weekends, you can enter 12 or 24 hours depending on how many on-calls you've got agreed. Now, if you get called out whilst you're on call, then you would claim work done, which goes in down here. And there's actually two options. There's a part-time one and a full-time one, and it works very similar to overtime. So I'm part-time, remember, and I'm on a 30-hour a week contract. I'm in a new week because I'm on the 10th of April, and I haven't done any other extra hours. So in my case, I'm going to choose emergency work part-time because I would only choose the full-time option if I'm already a full-time employee, or I'm part-time when I've already met my full-time hours for the week. So you claim work done if you're called out to do some work whilst you're sat at home on call. They say, can you come in and sort this situation out? If I then click Save and Close, that saves my entries in the On-Call tab. And the other tab we have available, fewer of you will use this one, but any unusual allowances besides the normal ones will very likely be available in here. The example we're going to look at today is claim time overtime, which some people do occasionally claim. And I'm going to claim it for the 13th of April, so I'm going to click Edit next to the 13th. Again, I've got a button with a green plus. This one's called Add New Allowance. And then there'll be different allowances available depending on who you are. We're going to go with plain time overtime in this example, as I said, and it will tell you in the field whether it wants you to enter in hours or sessions. So if you're a doctor, you might be asked to enter in sessions, for example. And you put in the number of hours in decimals again. So where hours are entered in decimals, 45 minutes would be 0.75, so 2 hours 45 would be 2.75. Click OK. Then save and next day or save and close as appropriate. Now, those are the entries I'm going to do in this example claim today, and what I would just want to highlight is on the top left you've got a claim reference number now, and that is unique to the claim. And on the right hand side of the top there's a status of entered, so this claim is saved as a work in progress. If I go back to the home page, then you'll see my most recent claim is at the top of the list. So you could save your work and log out and come back to it later, and then when you log back in, click View. And then go in and add more entries to the claim as you see fit. So you go into the relevant tab, obviously, and use your Maintain or your Edit buttons to make further entries. Now I'm going to pretend that I've finished my claim for the month, so I am going to submit it, and I'll do that by clicking on the Terms and Conditions tab. I have to agree that my contracted hours or sessions displayed here are correct. I said I'm on a 30-hour-a-week contract, so I'm going to tick that to agree it. And then I've got an Edit button, so if anything is wrong, I can use this to notify HR. So I could put my amended contracted hours in there and say, you know, I changed my contracted hours effective from the 1st of April or something like that, and maybe the information in ESR isn't up to date. Same goes for a leaving date, where you could tell them that you have left on a certain date, because that should also show if your leaving date is in the ESR data. So this won't change ESR, but it will send an email to HR to tell them that you think something has changed. So what we have is a declaration to read. Yours will be specific to your organisation. It's like you signing off the claim, and then there's a tick box to tick on the right, and we click Submit Claim. ePay then performs some checks. It will remind you of the approval deadline, and in my case it's showing me a warning. So if you see any messages here with tick boxes, these are warnings saying please double check that this is correct and don't submit it if it isn't. So this one is a part-time person claiming overtime, which is unusual. In my case, if you remember, because I have a 30-hour-a-week contract and I did my 7.5 excess hours here in that week, the overtime I claimed in the same week is okay, because 30 plus 7.5 is 37.5, of course, and the hours above the overtime, hours above full-time could be claimed as overtime. So you only tick them if they're correct. If they're not correct, cancel and then go and correct the claim before you submit it, because once you fix the problem, the warning should disappear. Then click OK, and it automatically sends an email to your approver to tell them that the claim needs approval. You can see the most recent claim at the top of the grid. This is the View All Claims screen that I mentioned earlier. One of the really useful things about this grid is if I use this arrow here, you can see the name of the approver the claim is with for your submitted claims. If I filter using the select status here, I can say, just show me my submitted claims, please. And then you'll be able to see for all of your submitted claims, when it reduces the filter down to just that one, then you'll be able to see that the claims are with who they're with for approval. So as you can see here, the approver's name is Deborah Butler. If the claim gets escalated, then the name of the approver in that column will change. So you can see who your claim is with on any given day using this screen. Also, if I click the edit button on the grid, that takes me back into the claim. So be very careful about amending a submitted claim, of course, because it will change the status and you'd need to submit it for approval again. You do have a status info button which will tell you the status of your claim, when it was entered, submitted, approved or rejected or interfaced. The interface date is a really useful one because if it was interfaced in June, for example, then you know it's going to be paid in June. So you can use that to see when your claim is going to be paid. I did also say that I would show you the help file. So that is available in the actual entry window here. But I'll also show it to you in the View All Claims grid. Just wait for that to load. And if I click Help in here, you'll see there is a help file for employee salary entry. And the sections are linked, so you can say, take me to salary claim entry, and then it will show you some steps with screenshots of what to click. And at the top of each section, there is a back to contents link as well to take you back up to the top. There's also how to submit it for approval, and then in the approval screens, it will show you a help file on how to approve. So if I go back to the home page now, using the home link, I'm just going to show you a report. This one's called Claims Between Dates. This is one that users can use. So let's say I want to remind myself, what have I already claimed for April? So you can fill it in like so. It will default to HTML, but you can choose the Excel option if it's available. Click Execute. That will take you into a report that will show you a list of all your claims and then that fall into the date range you've set, and then you've got a More link on the right hand side. So if I click the More link, that shows me the detail in the claim. So if my question was, did I claim my on-call for the 10th of April, I can see it there. So that's clearly worked. And then in the reports on the top left, there are quite often back and close buttons that you can use because they're actually inside the ePay screens. As I say, approvers also have their own set of reports they can use for monitoring their team's claims as well. So I'm going to go back to the slides now to go through a bit more information with you. If your claim gets rejected by the approver, you will get an email quoting the reason entered by the approver, and it will stay as rejected until it's amended. The rejection reason will also show in the claim header like this, and what you should do is go in and amend the claim and resubmit it for approval. So it rejects the whole claim, you go in and resubmit it, and then it will go back through to the approver for authorization. So don't do a new claim, amend it and resubmit it. In terms of common queries, just remember you can't log on until your registration has been authorized after you've submitted it. Your username is your 8-digit employee number. If you get your password wrong 3 times, it blocks your account for 1 hour. And if you don't log in regularly, your account will be disabled 6 months after your last password change. So log in regularly. If that happens, then follow the forgotten password routine to reset it. The security answers are space and character sensitive, which is why I recommended one-word answers, and your account will be blocked for an hour if you enter incorrect personal information in either of those routines after 3 attempts. And then your account will be locked if you get it wrong a further 3 times after the hour has elapsed. An email is sent to the ePay administrator when the account is locked so they can liaise with you to resolve whatever the problem is. On your ePay homepage, we've talked about the View All Claims button to see all your claims. We've also looked at the Status Info button so you can see the status of your claim, including when it's been extracted. If your approver changes, then any existing claims that you have submitted will stay with your old approver for authorization. But if you want to move them out of the old approver's queue over to the new, all you need to do is go in and resubmit it, and it will do that automatically. If you get a message on your homepage saying no manager defined, that means there's a problem with your approval hierarchy and you should contact the administrator using the email address on the homepage. And if you're an approver but you get a workflow saying a claim needs to be approved, like an email saying it needs to be approved and the claim isn't there, then double check because it might have escalated. When your approval deadline is approaching, 5 calendar days before it comes, which means including weekends, an email is sent to claimants if they have any claims with an entered status. So it's up to you whether you do act on these, but it's there to help, obviously. It's saying you've got 2 days to submit the claim to hopefully have it approved for this month, and the reason that we say 2 days is because 3 calendar days, again including weekends, before the approval deadline hits, the approvers will get an email asking them to approve any claims that are with them for approval. So it's just there